My name's Paul Hutton-Ashkenny, and I'm co-chair of the Star Western Hemisphere Championships 2010. The Nassau Yacht Club is very pleased to be again welcoming the international star class back to sail the Western Hemisphere Championships in April of this year. So the regatta starts with the Harry Knowles series on Tuesday, April the 13th, and then follows immediately with the Western Hemisphere Championships from April 14th through 17th. And we currently have about 35 boats registered, which is a large fleet, and we have nearly 20 of them already at the yacht club, and more to follow. So it's very exciting. The yacht club is a repeat offender with the international star class. So through the good offices of Sir Durwood and many other international star class sailors over the years, the class has always been very happy to come back and sail in the Bahamas. So. And every time we have the regatta here, those who participate become ambassadors for sailing in Nassau and coming to the yacht club. And I remember very well when we last held the championship here in 2005. I was reading an article in the UK Yachting Press, a very well-known international magazine called Yachting World, and they do it's a monthly publication. On the back page, they do an interview with international figures from the sailing world, and they'd interviewed a gentleman by the name of Paul Hutton-Ashkenny, who is one of the leading yachtsmen, professional yachtsmen in the world. And he happened to be here in 2005, and he happened to win the regatta. Wow. And one of the questions they put to him at the time was, what's your favorite place in the world to sail? And he said Nassau, Bahamas. And wow. And you can't buy that kind of publicity. So it was a great recommendation for our beautiful sailing waters, and a great recommendation for the kind of regatta that we're able to run. So it was very pleasing to see that. The Harry Knowles series precedes the Western Hemisphere Championship, and any time the Western Hemisphere Championship is sailed in the Bahamas. And the exciting news this year is that Sir Durwood Knowles has said that in the first race of the series, I believe it's the first race, he's going to be sailing that race as a competitor. And for a man of his international standing and reputation, particularly being a Bahamian here in his home country, I think it's a wonderful thing to see. What's interesting is the 49er is an Olympic class boat, just in the same way that the Star class is an Olympic class boat. But the Star class is perhaps the boat that all top sailors aspire to. It's a difficult boat to sail, very challenging to sail competitively. And so if you're in the international sailing scene and you want to get to the top of your game, the boat you climb to, you aspire to, is the international star. And it's interesting to see Olympic sailors. They very often start with maybe in the laser class, and then as they get a little bit older and wiser, they migrate to the fin class, and they get a little older and wiser still, and they migrate to the star class. And so the star class is the pinnacle of Olympic sailing, and that's what's so exciting about having the star class back here again in 2010, especially given that the 2012 Olympics is just around the corner. So we've got lots of sailors here using this as a warm-up, even though the Olympics is still 2 years away. We're going to have a Bahamian team competing this year in the Western Hemisphere Championships. So Mark Holowesko and Billy Holowesko, who have represented the Bahamas previously at Olympic standard, will be sailing again in the Western Hemisphere Championships. We haven't had an Olympian sailing in the Olympics for the Bahamas for some years, and that's something that the Bahamas Sailing Association, under the good offices of Sir Durwood, is very anxious to address. And so in years to come, one of the stated ambitions is that we would like to see Bahamians again competing at Olympic level in Olympic sailing. It's progressing extremely well, and I'm very quick to say I take absolutely no credit for that, but people like Sir Durwood and others at the Bahamas Sailing Association have really been driving a junior sailing program that is designed to, in the future, lead to a junior being able to rise through the ranks with sufficient levels of training to be able to represent their country. But it's especially challenging today, more so in many ways than it was even 10 or 20 years ago, because the international standard of Olympic sailing is so high, and there's so much money involved in it now, because sailors go on to be professionals. It's not the amateur sport perhaps that it was 30, 40 years ago. It's almost a professional sport now, and Olympians, when they reach success, can expect their career to be sailing, and so it's become incredibly competitive and incredibly expensive. The ongoing challenge that we have is to be able to raise sufficient funds to be able to send youngsters away to compete internationally so that they can get the international exposure and practice, because there's only one way to get that good, and that's continual practice and exposure to other competitors of a similar level. So raising sufficient funds is a constant challenge, but that's the goal. Very often you can charter boats overseas, but very often you have to provide your own boat, but going overseas is expensive. Having a coach go with them is expensive. So it's challenging. It's very challenging, yeah. What we've been doing with not just Grand Bahama, but also with Abaco and Eleuthera and other islands, is part of the Bahamas Sailing Association's mandate, is to make sure that sailing isn't a Nassau sport, it's a Bahamas sport. And that's been very evident. I don't know if you've seen any of the junior sailing that goes on, particularly in September here, with the Sunfish class, with the Optimist class. We hosted the Sunfish World Championships here in October of last year, and it was just wonderful to see Bahamians competing, young Bahamians competing in that event. Not just from Nassau, but we had a youngster from Long Island also sailing. Sir Durwood may not thank me for saying, but he is the grandfather of sailing in the Bahamas. There's no question about that. And he's an inspiration to these young sailors. So we were talking about the Bahamas Sailing Association and what it's trying to achieve with bringing youngsters on and having them compete at the international level. Well, what greater incentive is there for a young Bahamian to be able to turn to Sir Durwood and shake the hands of a gold medal Olympian? I mean, it has immeasurable value, and the fact that Sir Durwood continues to give his time and effort into pursuing that goal of junior sailing is immeasurable.